Yeah, we're ready to get going whenever you are, Chair.
Yeah, are we ready to proceed with oath of office for our new commissioners?
No, it's okay. There we go. Okay, I'll just ask our two new commissioners to come join me up in front here and just come close so we can get us all in the shot and raise your right hand
Right.
and repeat after me. I, please state your name,
I,
Rebecca
Joan
Sheff,
Messina,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the
and the
Constitution of the State of California,
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
I will well and faithfully discharge
I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep, congratulations. And you can just join us up at the dais now.
As soon as you both are up here, I'll call this to order and start the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, let's call this meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then we'll take roll call, please.
Certainly. Commissioner Sheff? Commissioner Messina?
here,
Commissioner Escobedo?
Here.
Chair Gonzalez?
Here.
And I'll note for the record that Commissioner Manfredi is absent.
Great. This is the time for public comments. This is the public's opportunity to speak on any topic that is not listed on the agenda. Do we have anyone here who would like to make a general public comment? I see no one approaching. Is there anyone on Zoom?
Yeah, we have one hand raised on Zoom. Just get ready. Okay, first up, we have Mr. Asbury.
Hello, Commission and staff. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you guys. I'm making, this is my first time attending one of these meetings, and the reason for me attending this meeting is because the most recent city council meeting yesterday, there were a few people from the public that spoke out about having some type of a resolution, for lack of a better term, for sanctuary cities. And I would just say, as a legal immigrant of this community that lives and works full time, one of the brown-skinned individuals, we would be against that. My Latino friends and family and coworkers. So I hope we don't complicate the matters of the existing successes of the police department to compromise their integrity and such, and bring unneeded and unwanted, attention to this area where we should be focused on future growth of of the community rather than being disparaging to certain, community members, whether they live here legally or illegally. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asbury. No additional public comments at this time, Chair.
Great. So with that, we'll go ahead and move to regular new business. And for regular new business, for our new commissioners, it is now time for us to select a chair and a vice chair. And do I need to take public comments after our discussion or before our discussion?
I would say you could take it as long as it's before the motion is made.
Okay. So why don't we go ahead and discuss? We have 2 new members. That's a big percentage, but you are all both welcome to volunteer your name for chair or vice chair. What I will say is I'm okay being chair again. It's been, even though it's been a couple of years, it's still a relatively short amount of meetings, and I do feel like I have a rhythm going on here. So I wouldn't mind volunteering as chair. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then you go ahead and speak into the microphone.
Okay. I'd just like to say that I think experience counts, and I think would be beneficial to have you continue. Thank you.
Any other comments? Does anyone want to volunteer for vice chair or chair? Say, Mr. Manfredi was our vice chair in the last term. It's unfortunate he isn't here. He does have a lot of experience to offer us, but in the sake of him not being here, I don't mind also him being, if that's what the commission wants. But also, Ms. Escobedo has been with us now for a year, and would you be interested in being a vice chair?
I would. I would be honored to be vice chair.
Any comments from the commission? You okay with this?
No comments for me. I've attended meetings in the past and watched and seen how both of you have handled this. So definitely on board with you being chair and vice chair. And kind of my approach in whenever joining a commission or committee is to listen and learn and lend my expertise. So I'm looking to do that this year.
Great. Thank you. I'll just say as we're moving forward. Sorry. It's okay. Don't be afraid to participate. There's very short meetings, so you kind of got to hit the ground running, but I appreciate that. Mr.
I
Messina.
would second that if that's a motion, so.
Can't make a motion yet.
Oh, we have to take public
Yes,
comment?
yes.
Okay,
So I'm going to open up the floor for public comment if anyone would like to speak on the nominations for chair and vice chair selection.
And no hands are raised on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, so someone has to make a motion. Mr. Manfredi, maybe before we make a motion, we will allow Mr. Manfredi to come on in. So as you're settling in, and we will need to later have you log in to Granicus, but we are on the topic of chair and vice chair selection. Okay. We were almost going to make a motion. We've had volunteered Ms. Escobedo for chair, or for vice chair, and me for chair, but you were vice chair also last time, so also if you want to be considered for vice chair or chair, want to give you the opportunity to speak. I think you just came in. You taking your breath?
I am good either way. So we'll put it out for the vote. I'm good either way.
Okay.
If she wants to, I'm fine with that too.
Okay. Great. So does someone want to make, can I make a motion even though I'm nominated? Was that
Yes,
helpful?
you can make a
Okay.
motion.
So I would like to make a motion selecting a chair as myself and the vice chair as Ms. Escobedo for 2026. Does anyone want to second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, my voting system just went down. That's okay.
It's okay. Also, Mr. Manfredi's voting isn't up yet anyway. So
Okay,
we'll have to do.
Ms. Gonzalez, you gave the first, and who gave the second?
I did the second.
Okay, thank you. Okay. and I'll just take a verbal vote. Commissioner Messina,
Yes.
Commissioner Chef, Commissioner Escobedo,
Yes.
Commissioner Manfredi,
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
That motion unanimously carries.
Thank you. Now, the next, and just a reminder to the new commissioners, you do have to turn on your mic when you're speaking in, including for the oral votes. So takes a second to get used to. Well, thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Moving us on to the next meeting item, it is looking at approving the meeting minutes for October 2025. I'm going to open it up for public comments. Does anyone want to make public comments on the meetings from the last commission meeting? Do we have anything on Zoom?
No hands raised on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion approving the minutes of the October 29th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Messina,
Yes.
Commissioner Chef,
Yes.
Commissioner Escobedo,
Yes.
Commissioner Manfredi,
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
That unanimously carries.
Okay, great. Moving along this agenda. So the next item is talking about the Police Advisory Commission 2026 meeting calendar. The responsible staff members for this are Chief Robinson and Ms. Blankenship. Do you all have the calendar for 2026?
Yeah, we presented the calendar in the agenda packet. The chief and I look at the calendar and we set up quarterly meetings. We do schedule one meeting slightly off from quarterly just so that the commission can approve the annual report that gets presented to city council in November. And so we're just presenting it to you for formal adoption, or if you wanted to hold any sort of discussion on the meeting calendar.
Yeah, let me just add that in reviewing this meeting calendar, I didn't want the meetings to go to waste, so my plan is to bring substantive content to each meeting, to make sure that your time is not wasted in being here and that we can make something substantial presented to the community.
In full transparency, I will say, and I'm going to give a full update on what happened in the January City Council meeting, one of the January City Council meetings. There was conversation of potentially having more meetings. That was a request by one of the council people, not all of them, one of them. My hesitancy, but I just want to be full transparent in the discussion, is the predominant amount of the work that is done on this commission is done by the chief. The more that we have more meetings, the more work falls on his calendar, or just his workload in general. So that has always been a concern for me in the beginning. And also city staff time just as a whole. But I just want to present it because it was discussed. Does anyone have any feelings or thoughts on that?
Actually, I agree with you on that. We should keep it the way it is. But one of the things I did hear on that last meeting was reports. The council wants to see a report. So I say once a year, write up a full report like I did on other commissions, which will take up in everything that we discussed throughout the year and chief what the agendas are before, after, put it on the report. That way they have something and they see progress in accordance to what we need to agree with the chief.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Mr. Barzell, are there any limitations on the way that we can present reports? Are there that we have under the Brown Act? Does it have to be done by a certain time frame and presented in a certain way?
Each council meeting has an opportunity for commission reports. So you could opt to do it, after every meeting if you chose. In other commissions, we have a similar option for them. So it could either be an oral presentation or we could prepare a written report that could be submitted to council. But we would have to reach consensus for that. For either it'd have to be, approved by motion So just keep that in mind.
Mr. Manfredi, did you have anything specific in mind when you thought about that?
I did. I say a yearly before the annual, a written report handed so it's documented and not just orally recorded.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. Chief, can you remind me when you finalize your report and when that process happens? I know we have the 28th, the meeting in October 28th for you to present the report, but I just want to
Correct.
kind of know your
We-
timeline.
We presented the PAC annual report here in October, and then we presented it to council in November.
Yeah, so I think with that timeline, that means that probably for the October, it's possible to agendize this as a meeting item for us and our own, like the chief's report and then our report.
Yeah, so I'd suggest we agenda, if this is what the commission wants to do, agendize it in enough in advance that you'll have an opportunity to present it this year at council. So sometime in either the second or third meeting, or depending on the date, the fourth. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So is that fine with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and vote.
So then, can someone make a motion to pass, new commissioners, have you looked at the timeline? Does it work for you?
Well, wait, hold on. So,
Oh, public comment.
no, this actually, it's kind of strayed away from the meeting calendar a little bit. So we're talking two things. This item is to pass the meeting calendar for this year. So I think what the conversation strayed into was agendizing something for later for a report out to council.
Oh, I wasn't
That-
being clear. I meant to agendize passing the calendar as is. Sorry.
Okay. All right. But just to be clear that the other discussion that we were going to, we could also bring that up again at the commissioner report section. That would be the appropriate time to discuss.
Thank you. And just to clarify, Mr. Messina, Ms. Chef, does the meeting calendar work for you all as well?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So does someone want to make a motion passing a motion to approve the 2026 meeting calendar?
I'll make a motion to pass 2026 meeting calendar.
I'll go ahead and second it.
Okay, Commissioner Manfredi,
Yes.
Commissioner Messina,
Yes.
Commissioner Chef,
Yes.
Commissioner Escobedo,
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
That motion unanimously carries.
Great. Ms. Blankenship, do you want to take a quick little break to do the online or the computer voting, or are you okay with this?
I'm not sure why it isn't working. So I've tried a couple of things on my end to get it to work. We could take a 5-minute and see if we can do that.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Yeah.
We will take a 5-minute break to just make sure the tech is working.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
And Mr. Manfredi? Apologize for that. I will get that fixed.
You're doing the fourth tax day. You guys have a love-hate relationship, I know.
Okay.
Can I bring us back?
Yep.
Okay. Bringing us back, the next item on the agenda is the vacation home rental code enforcement process and response. Can we have the staff responsible for that? Great.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ashley. I'm the Code Compliance Investigator with the South Lake Tahoe Police Department, and this is Sonia Wheeler and Syed Shah, who are the CSO supervisors. So we'll start with the presentation here. We're going to be talking about the VHR permitting and enforcement within the city. So on the agenda, I'm going to be discussing permitting and compliance, and then Sonia and Syed are going to discuss the enforcement. So just a little overview of kind of what I do within the police department. I handle all VHR applications. So I do all new renewals and hosted rentals within the city. I also provide updates to staff. So I try and do that weekly to bi-weekly with just updated numbers in terms of data and information. I also update the city webpage for the vacation homes, And then I also review, track, monitor, and issue permits. I have a lot of different tracking methods, so Excel, HTML, kind of a lot of different things to compile all that information. I investigate properties for compliance within the city, and then also investigate complaints that are directed towards the police department. We issue administrative citations, manage appeal hearing documentations and materials, and then work closely with administrative staff and divisional staff within the city. So I have a processing timeline. So this is something that when the ordinance took effect in June of 2025, the chief and I sat down for a very long time and tried to plot out kind of a timeline, steps of how we would process applications, and then we met with city attorney, city manager, everyone involved within the process for VHRs. But basically, this is just kind of a quick view of the application process. This is per application. So we start with the application that's submitted. It goes into review. So I review a lot of different things when this takes place, which is good standing. So basically no more than 3 citations within any 24-month period. And then also checking for ownership. A lot of that happened during the preferred period, which was that first couple or the month to 2 months of when preferred applicants could apply. And then also checking if they get buffered out, which would be a cause for them not to get a permit. That falls into 4 different categories. So approved, pending, rejected, or buffered out. Buffered out obviously means that there was a conflict and they were buffered by an issued permit. Rejected could mean any of those steps that I mentioned, good standing, with citations, ownership issues, and again, buffered out. Pending applications normally meant that I was requiring deed documentations. So especially with the condo rule for 2026, it had to meet that date. And so a lot of times if an application came in, we would require those documents and then basically be able to tell if they were allowed to continue with the process. And then if we go to the approved stage, basically once an application was approved, they meet all the requirements, an account would be created. Once that account is created, we would send an email for the application and inspection fee. And then once that took place and they paid that amount, we would schedule, or we would send them the email for the approval, which was the inspection. They would schedule their inspection, go through that inspection process. If they failed, they could, they would have to fix all of those, or they would have to correct everything they needed to within 45 days. And then if they passed, we would collect the annual fee, which is a yearly fee for the application and permit. And then they would be issued a permit. So that's kind of the process, and that is for each application. So, so that's the process for applications. And then how I track everything. So we have different systems, and in order to track everything as accurately as possible, especially with such a new process, we created Excel sheets. So this helped us track owner information, statuses of the permits, as well as email steps. So there were a lot of different emails that went through the process per applicant. So this was just helpful in tracking all of that. We also tracked the good standing, just that was helpful for if they had any citations, the 3 or more citations, that was helpful just to kind of, that basically buffered them out or rejected them from the process. And then the top chart on the right is basically just the steps that HDL tracks. Now, HDL is our permitting system, and so this actually creates the permits. This allows us to review it and add any information to a permit that we need to. I also tracked applicant information, as I said, email steps and good standing, and then voicemails and emails. Since the process started, we were getting hundreds of calls and emails a day. So for me to keep my mind sane, I was trying to track all of that just so that I could get back to everyone in a timely manner. And then I handle the refunds and then the VHR complaint sheet. And that complaint sheet is on the city website as well. So these are just current numbers of where the application process has started and until January 29th of 2026. So as we can see, June, when the application process opened for preferred applicants, we had about 408. And then we see a little bit of a drop in July. And then August, when the general group could apply, that spiked again. Now we're seeing the downward trend of less and less applications coming in weekly. We also have permits issued. I split those two up for residential and commercial versus the tourist core. And again, this number has increased since January 29th. The permits rejected are listed as well, and permits buffered out. And then just a little visual of the status for kind of, again, just that visual to see how many actually were buffered out, rejected, pending, or active. Okay, and then the last part for me, we have our buffer maps. So the buffer map is posted on the city website, and this just allows the public to view where properties have been issued. So this is helpful for them as well too. If they're wanting to apply, they can already see before spending so much time on the application. They can already see where they are within the process if they've already been buffered out, or if they could apply and potentially be eligible for a permit. And this chart updates every hour, so it is accurate information. And then the last thing is the VHR complaint report. So these are calls that come into our RIM system at the police department. These are all the calls for service. So anytime an officer goes out, a CSO goes out, we get a phone complaint, an email complaint. We track all of that. And I update that every 2 weeks and post it on the city website under the VHR enforcement page. So this just gives good transparency to the public and allows the public to be able to see that enforcement has been doing what they need to do in order to make sure the city is running smoothly and everyone is staying up to code. Now I'm going to turn it over to Sonia and Syed.
Thank you so much. I will introduce myself, Syed, and my fellow supervisor, Sonia. We both together run this division, a CSO division. This division has basically 2 parts. One is a CSO and one other parking. At this point, we have our full strength, total 8 CSOs and 4 parking ambassadors. 2 of them in CSO's division, they're under training, and 1 in parking division. After that, we're gonna launch them and everything will be fully strength. So the violations we handle as a CSO division for the code, the nuisance, abandoned vehicles, taxi cabin drivers, assisting police with traffic control and road closure, massage parlor, parking, and VHR enforcement. Manage and participate the appeal hearings. We both work together, and we have 2 kind of different appeals, one with the VHR side of the appeals and with the parking side of the appeals. And then we also do CSO trainings, local ordinance on safety regulations, compliance standard applied consistently, fairly, with effectively. Encourage strong, confident, and accountable enforcement professionals. We have our officers assigned as an FTO. We send them proper FTO academy to they can train our CSOs through proper channel. Refer schedule and out-of-station trainings, further career growth, handle the rotational contracts for tow truck companies. So for here, we have like whole tow truck list, and they have to respond within a reasonable time frame. For that one, we have different companies. If someone running late, this and that, then we can ask for the next in the rotation. Enforcement and citations. Citation complaints and citation department has received and responded for now 67 VHR complaints, and 50 of them has been cited as an administration citations. 3 properties were denied VHR permit due to 3 or more outstanding citation within 24 months period, and the planning commission upheld all 3 citations, all 3 revocation period for us. Categories of violation. This is the main categories: renting without a permit, noise disturbance, over a load of vehicles and occupants, hot tub after hours, exterior signage, and trash. We stay proactive, and we have our beats. We keep patrolling our beats and keep an eye what's going on, and we stay proactive on that one. This is our charts for the VHR citations and violation related to VHR. You can see the citation fees, and these are showing how many fees they were owed to city and how much has been already been paid and what original amounts. And this chart will tell you how many total notices sent, closed, dismissed, on hold, open, and warning, and wide citations. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, we're here to answer.
Do I have to take public comment before or after the questions or discussion? I forgot the order of operations.
If you have any questions, you can ask first, and then we can open it up. And then we'll bring it back for discussion amongst yourselves.
I thought as much. Does anyone want to start with questions? Go for it.
I have a question. Thank you guys for your presentation. It was mentioned there was a downward trend of weekly applicants. What's the reasoning behind that, in your opinion?
I think the reasoning behind that is just because like the process started in June, and now like that was when the bulk of applicants applied. And then August, when the general kind of group was able to apply for applications, everyone kind of just applied like right when it opened. So I think the downward trend is just people that have kind of seen everything settle now. I don't know exactly why a trend like that, but that's kind of my best guess, is that the bulk of people applied like right when it opened. And so it kind of left like not a lot of applicants applying later. And like currently to this day, I mean, I'm seeing like maybe 4 or 5 applications come in a week.
If I could add to that, I think what's going to happen after council direction last night in a couple of months is we're going to see another spike because we're going to go to a no buffer with the limit.
I had a couple of questions, if you could clarify for me. One on permits rejected, did that include the number buffered out as well? So that was the total, 483 was the total number, and that
Yeah.
included the buffered ones?
No, so that was separate.
They're
So
separate?
yes, that is
Okay, so
separate.
that's plus those, okay.
Yes.
Another question, go through real quick. On your buffer map,
Yes.
a lot of VHR owners have asked me why they don't show the public, which houses have an application pending? Because then they're applying for one that's probably buffered them out already.
Right.
Is there a way we could actually let them know that it's already been applied, or is there a rule on that or something?
Yeah, so the reason that we don't do that is because the permit map that I use is just for tracking. That is a moving, living document, so it's always going to change. And so even if someone applies and, for example, we say like, oh, hey, someone else is in the process, that could change within minutes. So it's not really fair to give the applicants that information just because it's not going to be or it's not going to be the same maybe in the next like hour. However, the issued permit map that we do provide is accurate and will be accurate.
Is it possible for an applicant to check before they file their application to see if they're already buffered out?
So when an applicant applies, there's actually an email that we can send out and that we do send out if someone is within their buffer. So they are notified say person A applies and person B is within their buffer and person B applies, they will get notified that it's at their own risk to continue with the process knowing someone else is within their buffer.
Very good. One more question. On your citations, you list the various standard violations. Do you have that broken down statistically somewhere, like in a pie chart or something, which violations are most predominant?
Specifically, are you talking about like permitting, or is this more
The
directed
citation,
towards?
you have,
Oh, that one.
okay.
No, at this time, we do not have it broken down between how many noise, how many trash, how many permitted, but we do have that data
Could I get
available.
those figures?
I'm sorry?
Could I get those figures?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Appreciate all your help. Very good report.
I'm really excited to see new people. Listen, I love the Chiefs, but it's always good to see new people. Ashley, for you, are you the only administrative person who is doing that, or do you have more staff helping you manage all these Excel sheets?
So it's just me. At the very beginning of the process, we did have a couple people helping me just to get through that kind of initial rush. But after that, it definitely became manageable. And as you can imagine, once you get a system, it's a lot faster. So whenever I do receive permits, I mean, they're reviewed very quickly now. And it's more now me waiting for the applicant to pay or do anything like that. So, but yes, currently it is just me. But again, the workload is nothing like it was when we did have the ordinance that just started, but I did have help then, yes.
Great. And now I'm going to ask us questions more related to police advisory stuff. Just in terms of when the complaints come in for VHR issues, any of these violations, do those normally come in through a complaint line for the public to understand, or do they come in through 911, or are they coming through non-emergency? Like, what is typical and how you all are receiving these complaints?
Typically, people are still calling our non-emergency line, but we get them through emails. We get them through a request through an application that we use to track unpermitted rentals. Sometimes we get complaints through there. I know there's a way to make a complaint on the city website, emails. Sometimes they report it to records. Yeah.
And I guess the reason for this question is to kind of understand where the intersection of when the complaints go to the police department. Are you all I guess the question is, when does the police department actually respond to the violation? When is the CSO involved in this? So
For every complaint.
So every
we respond
complaint.
to every VHR complaint.
Okay.
Whether it's unfounded, and we document if it's unfounded. As in, sometimes people report unpermitted vacation home rentals because they see different individuals every weekend. We find that it's not unpermitted. Maybe it's friends and family, but we still respond.
And
we
that's
just-
physically?
Yes, physically.
Okay. I think one of the reasons we brought this to agenda is just so people can understand the process. I think there's a lot of misinformation of just how y'all engage with VHR. So this is more of just putting it on the record how you all do this stuff, because I do think that when we hear these in more general meetings, it's always just like, there's a ton of VHR violations. I think it's interesting to see the number as is, you know, in terms of how many overall citations. I know it's not necessarily broken down, but it's relatively small from what I think I thought it was going to be. So that's really helpful information. Any other questions?
I have a couple questions. Just process-wise, curious to know what you would say the average time frame is between application submitted and then like permit issued. I mean, given I know there's probably a lot of differences because there's some things, but
Yeah, it's definitely a wide range. You have a lot of people that apply and they're just like right on top of it. Like I'll send a payment email and like within a couple hours they've already paid and they're getting their inspection email. You have others that applied, you send them an email and 20, 30, 40 days later, you're following back up, seeing if they're even still interested. So it ranges. I guess you would say the shortest amount of time I would say would probably be 45 days to get a permit issued, like to go through the entire process. And the highest we've seen is close to around 98 days.
thank you, that's helpful. And then another question about how the good standing works. Since it's a set time frame, if that time frame then passes, are those applicants that were rejected, if they remain in good standing or if they achieve good standing, are they able to reapply, or how does that work?
So the way that the code is written, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's for any 24-month period. So basically, even if you had something all the way back in 2010, it still carries through. So if they were to apply again, say with the new ordinance and the readings that are to take place, and they apply again, but they were rejected because of 3 or more citations, they would be rejected again.
I guess it just triggered one more question, and for me, when the applications were high, did that trigger anything for the police department in terms of more citations or more call-ins that you had to do? And do you anticipate when and if the ordinance changes that you will also see that same spike?
We did see a rise in calls of people calling regarding properties renting without the permit prior to it actually being issued. So we were responding to those, just people not waiting to get the permit until they actively started renting. And that included people that were just advertising, even if it was in advance, because the code states that you're not to advertise until you have a permit. So.
Let me add real quick to your question, because your question seemed, correct me if I'm wrong, that for the number of permits issued, that the citation value seems low. And so going through our software, it's showing nights rented. It seems pretty low right now, October, November, December. And that's outside the tourist core. So those numbers are, from what we saw, low, probably, which is why the citation value is low.
I don't think it's so much as a judgment as just like what to anticipate in terms of law enforcement being involved in VHRs as we move forward. I think even relative, I think it's an interesting number, but just to anticipate of what we see will happen for you all, I think it's good for the public to hear that.
Yeah, one of the things that we were trying to do is make sure that the VHR owners or agents were involved in this, I'm going to call it enforcement process, so that we could avert calls coming into the police department, because we realize that not every solution needs the police. So if they're handling it and we never find out about it, and we never find out about it, we'll be okay.
Thank you so much. You can have a seat. I do have to open it up for comment, but you can have a seat. Thank you, and thank you for bringing some new people here. Does anyone want to make public comment on this item?
What's up? This is Bobby Gonzalez here. I didn't look at the agenda. I just came here to see all the funny stuff. We all know what's going on. I'm obviously doing a lot of risk management work for free in favor of the city, whether we'll find it out the hard way or not. But seems to be the topic for me to come up and say something about. You know, we've got closed city council meetings against the law all the time. We've got eminent domain proceedings against the law, against our planning documents. Relative to the VHR, you know, why did the VHR policies come into effect? Because of all of these other housing issues. So this is very much on the agenda. But how many more legal issues do we have in the city? How many more, specifically with the housing issues? How many more legal issues do we have in the city with the housing issues? How many criminal law issues do we have with the housing issues? So obviously, these things could become a police issue one day. Like we're saying, some things are police issues, some things are not police issues. It's a very important distinction that our society still does not understand, obviously. But before we get there, it seems like this would be a very appropriate place to start investigating these things, taking action on these things, considering this commission's authority and how it came into fruition in 2020 and things like that, and maybe, you know, my personal knowledge on those things. But, you know, we could talk all day about specific plans of action, economic impact strategies, risk management strategies. Hopefully I won't be doing risk management work for the city for free for much longer, because there are a lot of risks that it's time to manage right now. Sorry about my tone, but I will just finish by saying, Mr. Messina, I applaud your position on this commission now. You have been put here quite strategically. Do not stop asking questions ever, neither the rest of you. Everyone else, too. Thank you for your time. I hope to move forward with serious things soon.
Any other in-room calls? Comments?
We do have someone on Zoom, Mr. Asbury.
Hello, Commission and staff. Thank you. This is Eric Asbury for the record. Thanks for this opportunity to speak with you guys. My comment here right now is, in full disclosure, I am not a second homeowner. I live here and work here full time with my wife and family. I don't own any second homes and have no vacation rentals. However, I do believe in private property rights, and I do applaud the excellent service that the City of South Lake Tahoe Police Department performs for their citizens. I was just wanted to make a mention that we don't want to wear them down, our police force. It seems like the existing system has very few complaints, and it seems to be working like a pretty well-tuned machine. And you guys being an advisory commission, I would just advise you guys, from to not go ahead and overdo the advisory. I think everything's working good. It is unfortunate that some people have been buffered out, even when the system is working well. And I don't know how well this is going to work with the caps lowering for potentially their next March meeting. But with that said, I just thought I'd put a word out that I think everything's working pretty good. From someone that lives here, I wish I had more short-term rentals next to me. And that's about it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Asbury. No additional public comments, Chair.
Any other discussion from the commissioners? Anything? All right. So it was just a receive and file, so we can move on to our next agenda item, which is the School Resource Officer Report for 2025.
Good afternoon. Hello. There we go. Good afternoon. My name's Timothy Peterson. I'm the school resource officer for the police department, and part of my duties is representing the schools, South Tahoe High School, South Tahoe Middle School, Mount Talac Continuation High School, Tahoe Valley Elementary, and Bijou Elementary Schools. I've been the school resource officer. This is my third year now. It's been very rewarding. I've learned quite a bit working with the juveniles and also in collaboration with the school staff. So first, I just want to go over some of my responsibilities and how do I? Oh, gotcha. Thank you. All right. So first and foremost, as a school resource officer, my primary duty is to maintain the safety at the school sites. The best way to do that is to actually be on a campus. As you just heard, I represent 5 different campuses within the city, and I'm only one school resource officer. I try to balance my time accordingly to the needs, which basically boils down to high school getting most of my time, middle school's coming second, and the elementary schools are kind of on an as-needed basis. So it's a little bit of a struggle to get to all the schools, but that's kind of the reality of it and how it breaks down. I do work very closely with the school administrations at the sites and discussing threat assessment and safety. We also have kind of safety commissions at the high school with a couple different teachers and administration. We do safety meetings also once a week with the security at the high school. So we kind of just recap things of that week and how we can do better moving forward and brainstorm different ideas. Also, one of my next duties is just investigating incidents that happen on and off campus. That's an obvious one. If something happens on campus, that typically falls to me, but a lot of times things will happen off campus to a student that perhaps doesn't have that access to call 911 and speak to a police officer or have an officer respond to their house. So they have to wait till they go to school. And that's kind of where I come in. They can either come to me directly or they can talk to a school administrator, and then an administrator will refer them to me. So that's a really good resource for the students at the school. Also, again, working in collaboration with the school staff to educate the students. One of the big things this school year was bike safety, so working together to do assemblies and presentations to the kids about e-bike safety and all the laws regarding that. Another big thing is mentoring and counseling the kids. It's not always just the police officer with the gun and the vest and unapproachable. As the school resource officer, you have to wear multiple different hats. And sometimes it's a therapist hat, it's a counselor hat, it's a friend hat. It's a lot of different hats. And that's kind of what makes the job so rewarding, is you can interact with these kids in a different way than just a police officer that's responding to their house because of a complaint. So it's very good that way. I also work as a community liaison. And another big one is extracurricular engagement. There's lots of sports with the high school. There's some sports with the middle school as well. But the community really likes seeing a police officer there, whether it's a football game or a basketball game or a volleyball game. Numerous times I've had parents come up to me and thank me for being there. It shows the community and the parents and the students that we care about their safety. And I take that really very seriously, and I think it's really important to show that presence at those extracurricular events. The kids, it's a great opportunity too to interact with the student athletes as well, and they see that's important too, that their school resource officer is showing up to support them. All right, so on to statistics. The high school, like I said, that's kind of where most of the incidents occur. 170. The next one, the middle school, 148. And then the elementary schools, you got 23 and 26. That trend pretty much continues with reports too. high school 37, middle school 19. And again, with citations, high school 28, middle school 5. No citations at the other locations. And as during the 2025 year, I unfortunately did have to place 3 students under arrest. But most of the time, if it comes down to someone pressing charges, it's a citation. You give them a ticket, they get referred to probation. If the actually getting arrested part, that's not something I take lightly. The school staff doesn't take lightly. But when it's needed, it has to be done. And then I did make 20 non-enforcement action reports. That's not a representation of all the incidents that I deal with on a daily basis. Majority of those don't typically get logged because, like I mentioned before, I wear multiple different hats. But sometimes it's good and needed to document certain interactions because you never know if it's going to turn into something later on. Some incidents
Sorry,
of
before
note.
you move forward, can you just say again what a non-enforcement action is?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if I'm having an interaction with a student, that could be a student comes and talks to me and says, hey, I'm having some problems with this other student. They posted something online about me. I feel like I'm being bullied. Or they look at me funny in the hallway. It could be numerous different examples. And like I can have that interaction with that student, hear what their feelings are, trying to offer them guidance on how they could go about this moving forward, ask them if they would like me to get personally involved, and if so, they can go reach out to the other student, make parent phone calls. So something like that doesn't rise to the level of where I'm feeling like I need to make a actual police report for it. It's not necessarily criminal, and it's something that I think I can just handle on my own, if that makes sense. Okay. So incidents of note for the 2025 year, in March 2025, what happened? Okay, we're good? Okay. You saw the glitch, right? Okay. Yeah, someone say Matrix. 2025, there was an incident at the middle school. This was a situation where I did have to arrest a student. Just being very disrespectful, defiant to school staff, school security, even myself. It resulted in that student even pushing me, trying to not listen to instruction, just kind of out of control. And unfortunately, in that situation, I did have to make an arrest. That is not common. If anything, I would think like I would encounter something like that at the high school. So I was a little surprised that happened at the middle school. And it's the only time. April 2025, there was a student at the high school that did possess a knife. May 25, there was a video that surfaced of a student clearing rooms in like a military fashion, and he was using a pretend rifle. That wasn't necessarily criminal, kind of going back and tying it back to what I said earlier, but something I felt was concerning enough that I should probably document it. Turned out he was doing it for a senior project for military tactics because he wanted to go into the military. June 25, we had a dog attack a middle school student on the way to school while he was riding his bicycle. And September started this current school year. We did have a parent that came onto the high school campus and actually confronted a student that he felt was bullying his daughter and also saying not nice things about himself. So we did have a parent come onto campus, confront that student, and security and administration, they were able to identify the parent and not going straight to the office.
Sorry, can you wait till public comment, please?
so luckily, school staff and security were able to intercept this parent and diffuse the situation, separate the parent from the student who, and that's not a typical everyday thing. So I felt that was mentionable. And then some performance highlights from last year. I had the honor of mentoring a senior student during last spring. And this last school year, or not this last school year, earlier in the fall, I was a part of a community conversation at the middle school regarding e-bike safety. And ultimately what that launched into is the school district forming a committee for e-bike safety and what they want that to look like moving forward into next school year and hopefully onward. They're planning on starting a pilot program this spring to see how that works and tweak it if necessary and fully roll it out in the fall. Also performing, like I mentioned earlier, safety assemblies for bicycle, e-bike, e-motorcycle, safety and the laws surrounding that. That's where that picture came from. Another thing is being at the schools in the morning time, especially as kids are showing up on their bicycles, not wearing helmets, riding double, or riding e-bikes that they're not supposed to be riding, or riding electric motorcycles, which you're not supposed to be riding at all on the streets, or pocket bikes. And contacting those students, educating them, calling the parents, making documentation incidents for these contacts. Another thing is having checkpoints at the high school where that was a big thing in previous school years, was a lot of high school students would show up and they wouldn't have driver's license. And they would just come on campus, park wherever. It kind of started becoming out of control. So one of the things that we did over the summer into this new school year, we established numbered parking and issued numbered parking permits to the students. And in order to get your permit, you needed to actually show a driver's license, proof of insurance, and then your permit has a number, and that's the spot that you park in. That appears to have very much diminished that problem that we were seeing in the past. Because it felt like it was like every week there was a new 15-year-old, 16-year-old, sometimes 14-year-old driving to school, and like I would have to contact them and issue them citations, and so it feels like that's dramatically decreased with this new system at the high school. In the fall time, participated in the Cub Scout, I think, was it Local Heroes event? Bunch of little elementary age school kids that were just very interested in police and SWAT stuff and fire stuff, and so that was nice and rewarding to be able to do that for them. And then also in the fall time, this is the second year I've done this, and homeschool kids that aren't even affiliated with the Lake Tahoe Unified School District, just having, they coordinate like a day where it's typically a member of the police department, sheriff's department, and even the FBI, and these homeschool kids can come and talk to us, ask us questions, even the parents, they can kind of see some of our gear and equipment. It's just a really fun day for them, nice field trip. And that wraps up the 2025 School Resource Officer.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the commission? Mr. Messina, go ahead.
Just one. I love statistics, but in the high school, you gave an overall number for the high school incidents. Is that broken down somewhere by type of incident?
Not that's available here right now, no. But I can tell you, I have kind of broken it down before in the past, and it's very scattered into a lot of different categories.
Not one major cause. That's what I was looking at.
Say again, I'm sorry.
Not one major cause.
I mean, the top ones are like school fights, vaping, or possessing like vape or marijuana.
Yeah.
The typical things, and also driving without a driver's license. That was kind of a big one. But then you have a lot of one-offs, a handful of child abuses, and I even got an embezzlement at the middle school, which I mean, 3 years I haven't had that until then.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Mr. Messina, or Mr. Manfredi?
How many hours are you putting in during the week? If you're doing events or in school all day, what is your average day throughout that week?
Typically, an average day is 6 to 3:30. But if there's a school event going on, it's not uncommon for me to stay until 5:30 or 6 or 7. Yeah, if there's like a high school basketball game with the girls and boys playing at the same time, I mean, I could be working until 9.
Okay, and then you're writing reports after that, if you get any reports?
Yeah, if I get any reports, yes.
Okay, and second question is there any future intent, maybe Chief, you could answer this, for another resource officer?
Intent, yes. Money, no.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate your service.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Curious to know if you're not on the campus when there's an incident, do they call you directly for you to respond to said incident, or how that process works a little bit?
Yeah, so, sometimes that happens. It kind of depends on the severity of what is occurring. And I've had this conversation with the staff about if it's an absolute emergency, call 911. They will dispatch who needs to be dispatched, whether it's patrol. If I'm not there, patrol. If I am there, but say I'm at a different school, they'll call me on the radio and let me know to get there along with patrol. If it's that much of an emergency, they're calling 911. If it's something that is not necessarily an emergency, then yeah, they will call me or text me directly or send me an email. That's very common.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And then along with kind of the breakdown data that we were just talking about, I'd be interested if you do collect the demographic data as well on what that looks like and correlating to these incidents. But if it's not collected, totally understand.
I don't have that available. That's not something that I've collected.
Thank you. And
Sorry,
then
before you move on, is that not part of it? Would that wouldn't be considered part of the RIPA data or anything?
It depends on the circumstances. So if Officer Peterson's taking a report, he'll end up getting demographics. If there's no report, then he won't be getting demographics. And some of that stuff falls under juvenile records.
my last question. Curious to know just thoughts in terms of any significant trends from last year to this year, either changes or anything of note. I know you've mentioned a lot, but if there's anything else that kind of sticks out to you that we should be aware of.
No, I'd say this school year I've actually seen an improvement regarding like vaping and gang associations and things done in furtherance of the gang, and that could be for a variety of different reasons. It's not as prevalent. It's still happening. It would be naive and incorrect to say that vaping and gangs is not a problem. It still is. But as far as like something emerging this year, the only real thing that's kind of the big push is like the e-bike safety. That's kind of what a lot of the focus on, and getting that kind of squared away going into next year. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And just want to say, I've told Chief this, that I think positive police contact is so important, especially for the youth. So appreciate you being there and all the work. And given his questions, we know it's a lot of work.
Thank you.
I just have a question about how the students are reacting to current like fear around immigration enforcement. Has that, I know the chief has talked about it in the general community, but I'm wondering how that has manifested in the school campuses. Are people like more willing to engage with you? Or are they scared of you? I know you have from what I remember last year, you have a good relationship. So I'm kind of just seeing how the dynamics have changed with the students and their families.
I would say that it's definitely a concern of some of the students at the school. The middle school, a little bit, but definitely the high school. It's definitely more of a concern there. There's been a lot of talk about it, not necessarily directly with me and the students, but I have heard like staff talk about it. There's been some like walkouts and protests that have been scheduled at the high school. Hasn't been anything massive. But overall, there hasn't been like anything crazy regarding that topic.
Any further questions by the commission? Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I got to open it up for public comment, and I'm going to run out real quick. So if you don't mind taking over, but take it for the public comment from the in here first. Sorry.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment in the room?
I guess I'll be that guy today, but I only have 10 seconds. So, yes, I made a blurred out, very highly watched presentation here. No, that newly found confidential informant that Officer Peterson just mentioned. Yes, newly found confidential informant. From where? I don't know. He contacted me. He should not have. That was the most serious contact in, Erica ran away. I've sent her all the emails, but she knew this was coming. So yeah, shouldn't have been contacted by that newly found confidential informant. Thank you for your time. I'm leaving now.
Any other public comments in the room? Any online?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform. We have Eric Asbury. Go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners, for Eric Asbury for the record. That was quite the impressive presentation by the school officer there. I commend him on his work and stuff like that. One thing I didn't hear him mention anything is about how maybe the school population travels to and from said destinations from their house to the school, whether it be bus or bus stop or by parents' travel. I do know that I see, I happen to live in the Sierra Track neighborhood, and I am in one of the main intersections for the 3 school districts. And so I see the school population traveling in various ways. Sometimes they're by bicycles and skateboards or walking. There's a main bikeway that goes through the center of town, maybe through Camp Richardson, all the way shy of, past the college, all the way shy of the state line. And there's some intersections that are quite suspect where I see a lot of near misses, since I also participate in traveling those routes, those bike routes. One of them being at Martin and Barbara Avenue. That's kind of a sketchy intersection where there's one stop sign, but then Martin, there's usually a quite high speed traffic going on, and people aren't anticipating or paying attention to pedestrians there. And then the other one being at Eloise and Tahoe Keys Boulevard. I've mentioned this for the past, shy of 3 years, usually annually, about every 9 months ago to the city council. I know city council's constantly rotating, but you guys being on an advisory commission, and there's certain council members, one of them being Mr. Robbins, and wanting some feedback from you guys, I thought maybe this could be another conduit towards, if you guys felt it being a necessary situation, especially with the loss of this young woman on the Sawmill section near Sawmill Pond last year. Tragic. They did have a flashing crosswalk there, but it was non-operational at the time. I don't know if it was a battery function or whatever. At the same day of the accident, the maintenance people went out there and made that available. Just in short, I think the crosswalks, the flashing crosswalks do draw attention. Of course, our young population should be looking both ways before they cross into traffic, make eye contact, different things. So I would just encourage maybe.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Asbury, your time is up. Thank you. No additional public comments, Chair.
Thank you. This was also just a receive and file, so we'll move to our next one, which is the police department's use of force statistics. Thank you all for coming today. Such a good speaking crew.
Russell Lyles, Lieutenant of Operations, South Lake Tahoe Police Department. Thank you for your time. We're going to go over 2025 uses of force. Before we get into the statistics, which I know some are interested in stats, what is force? Force is the application of physical techniques or tactics, chemical agents, or weapons to another person. It is not a use of force when a person allows him or herself to be searched, escorted, handcuffed, or restrained. Basically, if they give consent, then it's not force at that point. So, when can we use force? To effect a lawful arrest, detention, or search, overcome resistance, or to prevent escape, to prevent the commission of a public offense, in defense of others or in our own self-defense, to gain compliance with a lawful order. And all of those bullet points came out of the California Post Standards guidelines. So before we use force or we get in a situation to where force is necessary, we really have to go through different standards of how we're regulated and when is it okay for force to be used. So the three case laws that really come to mind is Graham versus Connor, Tennessee versus Gardner, and then Hayes versus San Diego. We now have to really account for our planning prior to going to a call for service. We need to make sure that we've planned properly to keep ourselves out of a situation to where force could be used. And then we have California statutes that also govern when and how we can use force. And then we also have our policy section as well, which is policy section 300. So Graham versus Connor, this is the reasonableness standard. Basically what it is whenever force is used, we will be judged on the perspective of another reasonable officer. Basically in that same sort of scenario, how would another reasonable officer also conduct themselves? And then we're not to be judged in the hindsight of 2020. And, a lot of times whenever we do something, it's easy to go back and do the Monday morning quarterback and go, well, they should have done this, they should have done that. And so in that case law, they stated that that shouldn't take place. And then the other key factor that came out of that case law is they recognize that officers are forced to make split-second judgments in circumstances that are tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving. And then Tennessee versus Gardner, and we hope we never have to get into a deadly force situation, but they ruled many years ago that deadly force is not appropriate whenever somebody is just escaping and they're a felon. Years ago, you could actually shoot a fleeing felon. That changed a long time ago. The couple of key factors on this one is deadly force specifically, or force is considered to be a seizure under the Fourth Amendment, and then take into account totality of the circumstances of the whole situation when you're judging an officer on the force that they used. And then Hayes versus San Diego, it's a little more of a recent case, but in a nutshell, specifically in a deadly force situation, is officers will be judged on in hindsight, of 2020 on what they did prior to getting there. So we really apply this to pretty much every call for service that we go to. Are we taking the appropriate steps? Do we have all the right pieces in place to positively impact this call for service? If it's a mental health call for service, okay, maybe the police, as Chief said earlier, aren't the right tool for that job. Maybe we contact Sierra Mental Wellness and we start getting them going. Or maybe we call the person and we talk to them prior to showing up on their front door and creating a situation or making a situation even worse. And so we really take that to heart pretty much on every call for service. And then PC 835, that's the penal code in California that basically kind of takes all these case laws that we're governed by, and then they've codified it in that 835 statute. And then one thing that they note in there is there's kind of a preamble to how and when we can use force, and it talks about how serious the responsibility is, and we need to we need to not take it lightly and have respect for everybody involved. And so we definitely take that to heart. And they kind of do the Graham versus Connor, the reasonable standard is codified in law. And then another section of 835 also talks about the totality of the circumstance, which was mentioned in Tennessee versus Garner. And then there's a clause in there that also says we shall not use deadly force against someone that is only a danger to themselves. After that came out, we definitely adjusted how we respond to 5150 type calls for service where somebody's inside of their home. They may want to do harm to themselves. They may have a deadly weapon in their possession. Years ago, whenever I started, when the chief started, we would kick in a door to save somebody's life and sometimes make that situation worse. We definitely take a step back and make sure that kind of like in Hayes versus San Diego, we're getting the proper pieces in place. And then we shall use de-escalation techniques. And I think that's something that our department does a very good job in. We show up on calls. We don't want to get in a fight. We don't want to get into an argument. We're going to do everything that we can to try to de-escalate, calm the situation down. And then we have reporting of use of force, which is in our 300 section. And just note that anytime there is a use of force that we have to document it. So what are the reasons that we need to document force? Whenever an injury, a visible injury is caused, we need to document it. Application that would lead a reasonable officer to conclude that the individual may have experienced more than momentary discomfort. So there's a thing called a twist lock. If we go to grab somebody off of the ground, we have to pick them up. We may apply a twist lock to them, help stand them up, gain some control of them, put handcuffs on them. If they never complain, then that was just momentary discomfort. We're not hurting them. It's just kind of uncomfortable for the moment. However, just note, if we go to put that particular hold on someone and they complain that they are injured, now it turns into a use of force report. Subject complained of the injury or continuing pain indicates intent to pursue litigation. If we use a taser, restraint device other than handcuffs, shackles, or belly chains, if there's some sort of other restraint device, then that'll be documented. Individual subjected to the force was rendered, if they go unconscious, obviously we're going to write a report on that. They were struck or kicked, or if they allege the force was unreasonable. So, with that said, before we get into a situation where force is used, we have to think about all of those factors in a rapidly evolving situation, and then we have to do our job. So, last year we had 26,405 incidents. We had 39 uses of force. That is 0.15%. If I'm saying it correctly, that is 1/15 of 1% that we will get into a use of force. That is actually in line with the exact number on the last presentation that I gave here was 0.15. And so we're trending kind of in the same. There were 22 injuries to the suspects, 12 to the officers. There were 32 male subjects, 7 female subjects. 21 were white, 11 Hispanic, 4 Asian, and 3 were black. Uses of force, that is a bar graph that gives you a nice visual. And I say it gives you a nice visual. I'll be honest with you, I can't make that 39 small enough with over 26,000. Total incidents is another bar graph here. I already gave you the data, but this is what it looks like. I would like to share, I do not have a chart in here comparing 2024. However, the last presentation, I just want to throw out that for the last cycle that was reviewed, so that was May of 2023 to March of 2025. So what is that, a little over a year and a half, whatever the math is on that. The percentage for white subjects during that one was 70%, 24% for Hispanic, 2% for Asian, 2% for other, and 0% for black individuals. So that changed a little bit. I can tell you it changed the percentage. So Hispanic was 28 to 24. It changed, but our numbers are so small with 39, it could be one more individual and it changes by 4%. I checked my math on that, but pretty close in there. And then this year, we had 3 encounters, uses of force with a black individual. 2 of those uses of force were the same person. Every time we contacted the person, he became combative, and so it may seem like a pretty big jump in percentage, but in all reality, it's not that big of a jump. Also, another set of numbers I would like to share with you guys is a new chief this year, new focus. Our new focus was proactive cop work. Let's go out and put people in jail that need to go to jail. And so total incidences this year compared to 2024, we had a 12% increase. We had a 7% increase in calls for service. We had a 38% increase in traffic stops. Our traffic collisions reduced by 11%. Total arrests were increased by 33%, and citations were increased by 95%. And the reason I point those numbers out is we increased in proactive cop work, and uses of force did not rise as far as the percentage. They stayed the same. So we were out doing more cop work, and the uses of force were flat. So I feel pretty good about that number. Another fancy pie chart here, 18% female, 82% male. And then the reasons for the force. Understand that when we get into a use of force, there may be 2 or 3 reasons that the force occurred. We go back to the first couple of slides on why can we use force. So a lot of that will fall into there. So 58% were to prevent escape, 84% to effect an arrest, seriousness of the crime, 8%, 87% to overcome resistance. You're going to see that the majority of the time. 5% to prevent a crime. An example of that is, someone looks like they're about to, or they're breaking into a home. We may tackle them out of a window. That would be a use of force, and that would prevent them from committing that crime. 18% is whenever their aggression turned towards us and we were trying to protect ourselves in that situation. And then 13% of the time to protect the public. Verbal commands. This is one that I'm happy about because we increased from the previous year. We were pretty high in this, the previous set of numbers. Let me find that. Verbal commands were 97% of the time. That is something I actually wanted 100% of the time, and we got 100% of the time. It could be something as simple as stop. The individual didn't stop, but at least we gave them some sort of chance to change their behavior. So 100% of the time we were able to do that. I feel like my thing's off here. All right, so 15% of the time we use taser, 8% of the time impact weapons, 95% of the time control holds. That will be our go-to. It is the lowest level of force that we use against someone, is grabbing them and trying to change their mindset, change whatever bad behavior that is going on by just simply trying to control them. Sometimes it may be taking them to the ground as well, but it's a lot better than some of the other alternatives that we have. And so 95% of the time we have that. We did not have any deadly force situations. 8% personal body weapons. I know there was a question out in the community of what is a personal body weapon. Essentially, it's your fist, your feet. It's something on your body. Could be an elbow that you're somewhat turning into a weapon. And then chemical agents, we didn't have any of those. And canines, we currently do not have a canine. And so we did not have any uses of force with the canine. Suspects' actions, I do have to say it should not be 100%. I double-checked my numbers today, and there was one incident that they were not physically fleeing. They were actually just verbal resistance or aggression, so I apologize, that number is off by 1. So 100% is what I have on here, but a little bit off. Physically resisting, fleeing, passive resistance. We didn't have any uses of force against anyone with passive resistance. What that would mean is if someone was blocking a sidewalk, we say, hey, you can't block the sidewalk. They're just sitting there. They're not responding in any sort of manner. They're not removing themselves from the sidewalk. Technically, could you use force against someone like that? Yes, but we didn't have any of those sort of situations. And then verbal resistance or aggression, that was 54% of the time. Sometimes you can have verbal resistance, aggression, also with the physical fleeing and resistance as well. The one situation that I was indicating about the physical resistance or fleeing, the one number should just go over to physical resistance, aggression. If someone is standing there, they are telling us that they are going to fight us if we touch them. They were involved in a violent crime. They may not actually be fleeing or physically fighting us, but in that scenario, they could get tased just to end it so no other force is getting used and nobody else gets hurt. Serious injury, 3% of the time. 14% of the time, it was a complaint of pain. 38% of the time, minor, non-incapacitating injury. 45% of the time, none. Keep in mind, on complaint of pain, there were some uses of force where we simply grab someone, we handcuff them. The individual indicated that we've now broken their wrist is hurt, their hand hurts. We're going to take a use of force report. And I think that's it for the stats.
Great. Thank you so much for bringing this presentation again. Always very thorough, which I appreciate. I'll open it up. Does anyone want to start with questions? I have a question. And that is just, as part of your post-training, do you all get regular training on use of force of when to and when not?
So for our department, we do in-house training 4 times a year. It can be as little as 3, but it's at least 3. We shoot for 4. And then every 2 years, it's perishable skills training. Thank you. That's why he's the chief. Perishable skills training, where we go to a different agency and we receive updates and we get use of force there as well. And that's part of our post certification. So that's every 2 years. And then something I would like to share is we've implemented, I think it's the last year and a half, is that correct, with the use of force committee? About the last year and a half, maybe at least year. So we have use of force tracking. So as soon as a use of force report is created, I get a text message right then and there. I can log into my computer at home and review that use of force report. I review every single use of force report. There is another lieutenant here that will also look at use of force reports, and then the use of force committee can look at every use of force report we recommend to them, even if the use of force is within policy. We can always do better. So if there are ones where I go, it's in policy, but I think we can do better, our defensive tactics instructor that teach use of force will sit down with that officer. I'm not sitting down with them. They're sitting down with them as instructors and peers and saying, hey, let's look at this. What can we do better? And get their perspective. Sometimes it's all perspective as well. So that's in place also.
So is that committee then to look at if the individual perceives that it was more excessive than they wanted? In those conversations with the committee, would you be kind of looking at the subjectivity and the perspective and maybe why that individual felt that way? I mean, some of it I know is, I know there's exaggeration, but do you see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying. So I have to and I used to teach use of force or defensive tactics. So I somewhat need to remove myself from that portion of it because I'm a supervisor. And am I now questioning them? And am I getting into, now we're questioning your use of force because there's a lot of different things that have to take place if we're now investigating that particular officer for a use of force that's outside of policy. So I look at it this way. You did it. It is, you say the use of force occurred. You did it within policy. Okay, think about these other things. You've done nothing wrong. I just follow up with the defensive tactics instructor and say, how did that go? And they go, oh yeah, we talked about a few different things, and we're good.
That's very helpful. I just want to say thank you for always bringing this up. This one of the biggest complaints on police's society is use of force, and you all continue to have a really low statistic that is really, and what I've said to the council repeatedly, which makes it hard to, what can you do better? Because every time you bring this presentation, you constantly are bringing us information on what you can do better. And I have a lot of respect for that. And I just really want to commend you. One, also putting the case law in the background and the stats on this, because there's so many misconceptions about it. I know people have individual feelings. And when we're here on the ground and we're talking about it, I really appreciate your sincerity and transparency in this process. So thank you.
And I think a lot of that's a direct reflection of whenever I brag about my officers and their de-escalation skills. I think that's a direct reflection of the numbers that we see. And then some of the policies or procedures that we have in place is our watch commander is very involved. If the situation has a very high potential of using force, then we go into that Hayes versus San Diego of checking all those boxes. And for us, we say, hey, we're going to check a lot of boxes before we show up on scene. Obviously, if it's a rapidly evolving and to the point the community's in a danger, sometimes we don't have time to check those boxes. We have to get there. But when we do have time, we definitely take that time to do so.
And I'll turn it over to you, but I want to put this on the record again for the public that both you and Chief are willing to hear complaints should something be outside of the scope of what they feel is out of policy. And can you confirm that that's true so people know that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, that's I think that's pretty significant because we just changed platforms that track our complaints as well. I think we'll come back later this year and talk about SB2, which talks about serious misconduct by officers. So there's a dovetail into the presentation that Lieutenant Lyles of the presentation that we'll get to later. But that reporting is pretty significant in that we can track all this stuff, and then there's a mandatory report to the state depending on the circumstances.
First, I want to commend both you and the chief. I think you guys, the sticks are great compared to other agencies. That being said, my question is, after the use of force, do you guys have an after-action report with the officer or a group to, hey, how can we better this? I know you mentioned it, but do you actually do it to each one, each situation?
Not every single one. There are some that I review to where they hit all the marks. And some of the other ones I review, we could do better, and those are the ones where the defensive tactics group will do that review with them, and those are off of my recommendation. I am in a unique position to where I taught defensive tactics for several years, and so I have a unique perspective of that, and so I think that is helpful, and also that individual over there's he's very well versed in it, and he's right next door to me, and so we will have those conversations about what's appropriate to do better. And then also we have daily briefings, and they are, for the most part, pretty uniform briefings, and I think those have really come into play because it's an outside entity that we've contracted with that'll talk about case law, different uses of force, appellate rulings that have recently come out. And actually, in watching some of those daily briefings, we adjusted our process. We had one where it worked out within 2 weeks. We almost had the same scenario, and frankly, I think that daily briefing kept us out of a shooting.
Perfect. So, but it sounds like you guys are covering A to Z on a daily basis, so congratulations on that, which is implements why all your statistics are so good. Yeah, but the one thing I would like to see next time would be that chart that you didn't present, the statistics from the last chief and the implication of the new chief on how that effect increased by the new policies that you put in place. Seeing that would help, but overall, I think the department's doing a great job.
And thank you. And just to clarify, you would like to see some comparisons to the previous years and how we're progressing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there are any more questions?
Yeah, just a comment.
Can you turn on your
basically.
mic?
Huh?
Mic?
It's on.
Okay.
Oh, I have to talk into it. I'm sorry. I lost my place. It sounds like you're running, doing training programs on the use of discretion in use of force and other encounters with the public in crime. And I think it sounds to me like that's the improvement in using discretion is one of the reasons the police force has improved so much over the past few years. You didn't talk much about the training programs, but I'm assuming that's what's happening.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've been pretty consistent in our training program as far as defensive tactics over the last a lot of years. We've been pretty consistent, and I would agree with your statement that an adjustment of our procedures, if you will, and how we refer to it in cop language is we slow things down. And we do a really good job of slowing a situation down when we can, and making sure those boxes are checked and other resources are available before we make contact with a person. And so, yes, I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, okay. I think that's responsible for one reason we have such a great police force, so thank you.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Oh, you have one? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Curious to know, like, in the use of force training, how much of it is the de-escalation techniques that you mentioned? And then what are those techniques? And then I have one more follow-up question after that.
Okay. It's using our words. De-escalation. A lot of times is just communicating with individuals, having empathy for an individual. Keep in mind, our job is we're contacting people on the absolute, for the most part, the worst day of their lives. No one ever calls us and says, hey, I'm having a really good day. You guys should come by. That just doesn't happen. And so having that empathy and understanding that their crisis is real, even if from the outside looking in, we go, it's real to them. And so we've done a better job of scenario-based training. I know in the TASER program, we now have implemented, we have some different tools available to where we're not just pointing at a target and shooting. We will create a scenario to where decisions have to be made. And sometimes those decisions are de-escalation and nothing gets done other than communicating with that person. So I think that helps is advancements in training and just getting smarter about cop work.
Thank you. And then curious to know, is the training available for all folks, including like CSOs and code enforcement people? Just thinking about the pipeline of those folks and their interactions with the public, but also the potential that they may join the academy and join the force, and not having to retrain.
It's not right now. It's just for sworn personnel. And to be upfront with you, it's hard to get in the 4 trainings because that's 4 trainings for defensive tactics. Then we qualify 4 times a year with our firearms, and then we have legal updates. We have to just so many different things. And you know, you had mentioned how many hours does Officer Peterson work? Also, there's more events at the school. There's just more things going on, and so right now it is just for the sworn. But that's an excellent point, especially with our CSO division, as they may encounter somebody having a really bad day and look at their uniform and not really care that it's any different. So that's an excellent point and something to consider.
Let me add to that real quick. So there is he's correct. We don't have any training for the CSOs, but so you have to look at their use of force training in 2 different perspectives. One is that sworn police officers have the authority to use force, whereas the CSOs don't have that authority. So self-defense and proactive use of force are 2 different things.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, great. Lieutenant Lyles, thank you again.
Okay,
I'm going to open it up for public comment, but you can sit down. Do we have anyone in the room up for public comment? Anyone on Zoom?
No, Chair.
Great. So that was just a receive and file. So moving on to the department annual report, and this is by Lieutenant Centel.
I would just like to add one thing from the last part. I actually am over the CSO division, and they do get de-escalation training. So that is a component of what some of the things they're getting, but like the chief said, they do not have the authority to use force, so they don't get taught that part. So let me reset. Hi, my name's Doug Centel. I'm our administrative lieutenant. I am going on 23 years of law enforcement at this point. For those who don't know me, 21 years at this department coming up in a couple of months. I have the honor to present our annual report. What our annual report is in summary, this version of it, because there's another one called annual report that's presented to the city council. This is not what that is referring to. This is more akin, like it's being affectionately called, is almost a yearbook. So this encapsulates our year of 2025 with a variety of things, everything from a chief's message, some major accomplishments throughout all of our department, including several different divisions. There are some stats that are in there, and I know somebody mentioned RIPA earlier. Some of our RIPA stats are included in this as well, along with arrests, major crimes. So this is kind of a different kind of presentation because I will go through this and go page by page, but some of the things will speak for themselves. I'm not going to read every single word. We'll be here all night. So if you guys, I don't know if this format's acceptable, but as I go through pages, if you'd like to interrupt me and ask something particular about the page, that probably flow a little bit better than to go through, I believe it's about 54 pages, and then go back to near the beginning if you had a question then. So please, I will take no offense, please interrupt me and ask questions as we proceed. Our chief kind of summarized up our year there. Obviously, one of the major things that happened this last year was our old chief retired. He'd been with us 30 years, and our chief took over. Started out with a new direction and a lot more community involvement. Not that we didn't have it before, but another emphasis on that community involvement. Our organizational chart has grown a little bit. We added a community service supervisor, an additional position last year, and you've already saw him. That was Mr. Syed Shah.
We've added code enforcement investigators. We've had additional parking ambassadors. We separated out some of the responsibilities into different divisions. But for the most part, we're basically the same as we've been in the past, just light tweaks. Our operations division consists of what you would commonly think of as our police department, our patrol officers, our boat officers, CSOs, excuse me, not CSOs, school resource officers, SROs, I had my acronym wrong there, and everything that you would normally think of when you see police day to day. Probably going to get into this super fast because I know you guys are interested in RIPA, but we'll start with this. Our major offenses are laid out here in terms of what we saw last year. Any questions instead of me just reading a bunch of mindless numbers over and over again as we just start here? I will start with on the page on the left.
Hang on one second.
Yes.
So we're going to have a deeper dive into RIPA probably in May. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that before we dive into the deep questions here.
Yeah. So, and just so you know, this, like that's why I kind of categorize this as more of a yearbook. There are definitely RIPA stats in there. This is not an all-encompassing, comprehensive RIPA report. So you may have questions, and I'm going to go, that's not included in here, but it will be addressed at a different meeting. Any questions on our trends, either on arrests or the type of crimes that we're getting here?
Just one clarification. These are, it says major offenses, but on the use of force, we saw incidents. Can you just differentiate what's an incident versus an offense for yearbook purposes?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's just meant for yearbook purposes.
An incident could be anything. Major offenses are kind of the main categories of crime that occur that are categorized. So we're only dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 roughly, because there are all assaults in there that are in one category. Larceny and thefts is almost any type of theft, embezzlement. So that it encompasses a lot of things. So, I mean, there's nothing up here that's going to include vacation home rental responses or anything like that. So it's a major part crimes that are recorded with like FBI statistics. We saw our overall trend of arrests from 23 to 25 grow. It's not in any great rate. Part of that, I believe, is attributed to what we talked about, a refocus last year on some proactive policing, but also factors of staffing. We've improved our staffing both in our patrol officer staffing and as well as our supplementary and support staff. And why the support staff matters is that's another set of eyes out there in the street, and they can report additional things that they've seen as well. We also have had a slight trend, we still had a slight hangover, if you will, from COVID in 2023. And we still had more, so things increased as from 2023 forward as well. The next page includes our basic stop data. This is our encompassing all of our stops that we have stopped someone with. And this particular graph is our demographic. You'll see that our white stops, so our total stops was 5,157 stops by the department. 3,279 of those were for white individuals, 1313, that's an odd number, but for Hispanic individuals, and then it dramatically drops off from there into the hundreds and then into 2 digits. Any questions on that page before I proceed? Okay. The reason for the stop. So why did all those stops happen? Our number one is clearly traffic stops and traffic violations. So those are going to be just what you see. A car gets pulled over 3,695 times. Someone engaged in a criminal act 1,200 times. So an officer's on viewing something that has caused them or a suspicion of on viewing a crime to stop them. Probable cause to arrest mean I'm going down the road and I happen to see an individual I know may have a warrant or some other reason for arrest. They've been stopped. Well, there's a separate. Probable cause to arrest means there is a reason and lawful ability to arrest them, not a warrant. I just realized that there is a known to have a warrant section that was next. A psychiatric detention, we're called to the scene of someone who's experiencing a psychiatric issue, and we detain them under what's known as the 5150 code. A search after a consensual encounter are known to be on parole or probation. So those are our reasons for stop data. Any questions in this page? Okay. Non-force action taken. So if I stop someone and I do something, I have to account for that. We break that out in 2 different categories. One is what's known as non-force, which means we didn't have any force like Lieutenant Lyles was mentioning. But the majority of that really is the non-force action we talked about. So what happened? I stopped someone, we have a conversation, and 3,303 times, nothing happened. The officer didn't take any action. That means they didn't do a detention, a search, a patrol car detention. They didn't administer field sobriety tests. They didn't do a property search, which were the subsequent categories that you see noted on this graph. Any questions on this? Okay. Our force actions taken. Now, I have a note, two notes about this graph. One, this is not a graph that you can comparatively add the numbers on the bottom, and you're going to come up with the number of stops. Because this may exceed that, because I can do, an encounter that had force may have multiple of these. So I might handcuff someone, but I also had to put a physical pain compliance technique, like Lieutenant Lyles mentioned, in that process. Maybe that we discharged a taser because they were trying to fight us, but then at the end I handcuffed them as well. So these things often have multiple, if you will, check boxes checked when that event happened. The other note was there was no force action used or taken in 4,418 events. It blew my graph out. It made, you couldn't read those. So I just made the note on the side so you guys could have at least some kind of physical representation in a graph to understand what was happening. Any questions that you'd like to ask on this one?
I have a question, just clarifying. So firearm unholstered means they just pulled their gun out of the holster, and then it was just pointing at the ground or whatever, and they didn't actually point it. But then every firearm pointed would also include the firearm unholstered, correct?
Yes, that would be because, logically correct. Yeah. So yes, so there's be times where where it's a preparatory thing where maybe someone has got a bat or they have something else that they look like they're about ready to either assault us or someone else, and it's a preparation. Officers have to account for human dynamics, meaning perception and reaction time. It takes time to unholster, draw, and aim on someone, and in a deadly force scenario or where someone or themselves are going to get hurt, they need to cut that time down. So they'll unholster and have it down. They're not pointing at anyone. So yes, that will be a separate graph or separate stat. And then of course, when they're pointed, those will be both together. They'll be both check boxes.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. All right, that was it for the RIPA data. And like Chief said, that was not a comprehensive RIPA report. It was just a highlight, if you will. One of the things that we like to highlight our divisions and what some of their accomplishments are. Our field training program successfully got 3 new officers through this year and to new officer status. We are a California Post certified program, which means we've put our program to their test and they've said, yes, you qualify. Your division, your field training program meets our standards. The STACS, obviously, is our homeless outreach. It's Officer Matt Hazlett, who does a phenomenal job of not just reaching out to individuals, but also working with many agencies within non-government agencies and Barton Hospital and Clean Tahoe and a lot of other agencies within the basin to help assist homeless individuals, whether that be trying to get them documents or trying to get them rehoused or family reunifications. We had addiction medicine referrals this year. We did have arrests in some of those scenarios as well. But out of 471 incidents that responded to, only 26 of those resulted in arrests. So it's more about the outreach portion in his role. Any questions on any of these 2 pages before we proceed? Okay. I'm really not going to go over this one. You had the firsthand experience of Officer Peterson. I do have a couple of his graphs that he did provide. I'm not sure if those were also part of his presentation. I think these are different graphs of the same data. He had a little bit bigger, better ones for you. I don't know why he didn't provide those to me for the annual report, but so be it. Our traffic unit. Our traffic unit is primarily consistent of a sergeant and a seasonal motor officer. Officer Jessica Newman does our motorcycle enforcement during the summertime. We have a traffic-minded department anyway. So we have a lot of officers that are trying to monitor the traffic because it's a high-impact issue within our city. One of those things is DUIs. We unfortunately have the distinction of being being a vacation destination, but we also have a 24-hour liquor dispensary, if you will, on the Nevada side with all the casinos. So we have an unfortunate byproduct of that of DUIs. So one of the things that our officers pride themselves on is getting those off of the streets. And 2 of our officers last year were recognized by California MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, was Officer Turini and Officer Sutton for their efforts. So we were very proud of them and the efforts that our traffic unit puts out. We'll go over some traffic stats. These are our collisions that we responded to in 2025. Just so you know, these are ones that we are aware of. So if someone crashes into someone else and never tells us, we don't know that. So these are our response stats. So our total collisions responded to last year was 321. The majority of those are broadside, rear end, side swipe, and they just progressively go down. Any questions on these? Our next one is what's known as, what were they involved with? What did the car crash into? So another motor vehicle, pretty straightforward. It's probably the majority of the time it's going to happen. Yep, that's exactly what happened here. Occasionally parked motor vehicles, fixed objects. 31 bicycles. Keep in mind when you see that stat, that doesn't mean that the car was at fault. It can be very much, and the same thing with pedestrians. It can be very much the case where the bicycle or the pedestrian are at fault. Any questions on the involved with page? Okay, our SWAT CRU unit, Crisis Response Unit. It's a combined unit that is not only our SWAT unit, but it's also our Hostage and Crisis Negotiator unit. They work in conjunction with each other. Ultimately, the job is if we have a SWAT call out, it's our crisis negotiations job to prevent them from ever having to use force. It's kind of going into that same continuum that Lieutenant Lyles was speaking about. That's our SWAT level de-escalation, if you will. Trying to make the best outcome possible so we do not have to actually go in and deploy the SWAT unit into a scenario. So if we can get our crisis response unit to be successful, that means we're all successful. It means the person's is agreeing and complying with us and will surrender. And that usually is the case. They do a very, very good job. Just some highlighted pictures. They do, high speed, low drag, fun stuff. Oops, let me back up a little bit. There's not a lot here because, again, this is just the highlights. So did you guys have questions before I proceeded? Or? Okay, sorry about that. Part of the other thing about the SWAT and CRU is Sergeant Lyles, Sergeant Carlquist, who's in the back, who is our SWAT commander, has done a really good job over the years of putting this team together. And one of the things he added several years in the past was medics. So adding medics to our team to be able to not only assist the SWAT members if they become injured, but if in the awful scenario, if we had a school or public shooting, a mass shooting, they can accompany the SWAT members and come in pretty far, close behind them, assist people that have been injured and get them some rapid care and get them off scene. So we credit him a lot for bringing that medic program to our crisis, CRU and SWAT. Any questions about that in general? Okay.
Actually, I got a quick question.
Yes, please.
On your medic, are they EMT, paramedics? What are their qualifications?
I don't know the answer to, but they are some of our, the 3 of them that are on there, still 3, is that right, Nick? 4, excuse me, there's 4. They are members of our fire department. I don't know their qualifications.
They're paramedics.
Paramedics, okay.
Thank you, I
Thanks,
did not
Chief.
know that.
I appreciate it, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, our Marine unit. One of the things that's very key to our city is obviously we have the lake. The lake is why I think most of us are here. One of the things that draws most people to us in the summer is the lake, and one of the things that happens is people underestimate our lake, drastically underestimate our lake. And our police boat unit is probably one of the busiest things that we've got going any time of year, and they perform everything from just public outreach to, hey, do you have your flotation device, to responding to vessels in distress, people in the water, boats sinking. They perform countless rescues during every single season. We used to joke, one of our prior boat officers, she was our tourniquet expert, because in one season she applied 4, and most of us have never applied 1. That's usually due to prop injuries and things like that. And they've done a lot of rescues, and nothing more of note or on point was June 21st of last year, when we had not just 1, but 2 vessels nearly simultaneously taking on water with multiple people on board. And our Marine unit responded to both. And our first response was thankfully a full success. I believe there was 8 people on board that one. Most of those people had life vests. Their unit was almost drug under when we towed onto them. We had to cut them loose, but we got everybody successfully off. But then pretty quickly, I think almost when they were still involved with that, it was right at the tail end, they got the call of the one over on the other side of the lake, which they had to run to, and they wound up saving 2 people, and tragically several others, as you know, died. That also included several deputies on El Dorado's boat, that their boat took on water and they got thrown off as well. So they are such a key component to this department and this city. I cringe to think about what would have happened if we didn't have them any given season. Because while that's a very dramatic one we had last year, there are lots more similar, not necessarily to scale as that happen every year. I'm very proud of our officers, but not just our dispatcher that was involved in that, but both officers. We awarded them the Medal of Valor this year for that rescue. Any questions about this?
How many boats do you have?
1. We have 1.
And you would like 2?
I'd like 2, and I'd like more Marine officers to staff them. Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Because
thank
you know how big our lake is.
I know.
It's quite the undertaking to go out there and
Yeah, let me address that thing. Yeah, I'd love 2 boats. I think that if we had more staff, we could put it out there 7 days a week. Right now, we're limited. We do work in conjunction with El Dorado Sheriff's Office, who puts their boat out, and between them and us, I think they schedule the entire week, so we have coverage for the South Shore. We also work with Douglas County, who's got a boat on the lake. Yeah, Placer County, who's got a boat on the lake, and the Coast Guard as well. I'm not sure about Washoe County. I'm not sure what their marine capacity is.
I do have a quick question because my stats aren't here. Did we not update this? Because I had boat stats, and that's not on the next.
No, this was submitted before the update.
Okay. I had boat stats. They were not here. Sorry. Okay. Our support division. Our support division is everybody else that you kind of not normally think of as being part of the police department, even though they are very key to that. That is everything from our detective division to our evidence division. We have our community service division, our dispatchers, everybody who is the heart and soul of what makes us tick, allows us officers to be successful. Key to that is our dispatch center. We are blessed to have our dispatch center as being part of the police department. It is in the building. Our dispatchers are with us. They have a monumental task because they not only dispatch us, they dispatch City Fire, they dispatch Lake Valley Fire, part of Fallen Leaf Lake, and I'm sure I'm missing several others because they have a lot that's going on. The JPA, which is our ambulance services as well. That crew works their tail off, and often it's just 2 of them in there. Sometimes it's just 1 of them in there, and that means they are accounting for fire and police at the same time. And those are few and far between, and that's usually the off hours, but staffing is key to us. We are getting very close to full staffing. I believe we have 2 positions, Chief, or 1 still left to fill? 2 right now. We're supposed to be staffed at 9. So our dispatchers are doing a phenomenal job. You'll notice my picture that was on the boat is in here too, because I wanted to recognize our dispatchers who also got the Medal of Valor for their response and coordinating that response on June 21st as well. We did get a chance to do some updates to the floor and some of the equipment in dispatch this last year, which is noted. That's why I wanted to note it, because you're probably looking at the picture on the bottom and going, why is that there? That's why it's there. It's because they did get some upgrades. Any questions? Okay. Our calls for service. So these are calls that came into our dispatch center for 2025. totaled 24,661 calls. Not all of those resulted in a cop going out or a fire response, but that's how many incoming calls that they were dealing with and were logged. Obviously, you'll see our spikes in the summer as normal. July is always our busiest, but not all that much of a drop off until you get to late winter, early spring, but then it picks back up pretty quickly. Any questions on that? Okay. Our detective unit. Our detective unit, again, is very key to our operations. Anytime we get any extended serious crimes or things that needs some level of investigation beyond just initial response to our calls for service, they're going to handle it. That can be everything from a serious child abuse case, property crimes, embezzlements. We had one of our detectives do an embezzlement case that was totaled several $1 million worth of embezzled money from a business, all the way up to homicides, sexual assaults, child pornography cases, you name it, that's going all through detective division. They have a heavy load to carry. I don't have all the stats for them. There is some of the things here for property crime trends. We have 22 through 25. I'm sorry. I thought you had a question. It's all right. We did have some uptick in the reported child crimes. Domestic violence is fairly even. It did tick up a little bit, and then our property crimes here and our major crimes have gone down. Any questions on this slide? Okay. Part of our support division is also our evidence division. They're key to helping us solve some of these crimes. While we may collect the evidence, what it tells us can be assisted through them. We have the ability in-house to do a lot of testing. We have a two-person evidence tech team. They are trained on various things. One of those is ability to do some fingerprint analysis. We can process things for fingerprints. We've done assisted detective vision and ballistics testing. They are responsible for testing of drugs that are suspected drugs that come in, processing these evidence, keeping the chain of custody so prosecutions can be successful. They also have a very big job, and they wanted me to make sure to put that really cool photo in there of that was a training. That's not a real body. It was a training they did for gravesite recovery. So they do some pretty extensive training to be able to assist the department in successful prosecutions. Questions? Okay. Our administrative division, that's mine. I actually am the administrative lieutenant. I have our records division, our CSO division, our parking ambassadors. We also handle all the internal affairs investigations. We do public records requests. We do public records destruction according to statutory requirements. We do a heavy lift as well, but we're even more behind the scenes, if you will. And less glory, but just as important. One of those big things is our community service unit. You guys have already heard from several of our community service members earlier with Ashley, Sonia, and Syed. They handle everything from kind of those quality of life issues that are throughout the city. So we have somebody who's got a nuisance abatement issue or abandoned vehicle. Maybe they have a trash issue. They handle the vacation home rental complaints. They assist us in even the patrol division. So if we have a crash and we need extra bodies to help divert traffic down the side because we have to close part of Highway 50, they're there for us. They do a phenomenal job of making sure our job is that much easier. Any questions on our community service unit? I don't want to forget to mention our parking ambassadors. We have a set of 4 parking ambassadors that work our parking garage located on Bellamy Court. They are tasked with going around, making sure people are abiding by the law, paying for the parking that they're supposed to pay for, and they get a lot of heat. Surprisingly, in my career, some of the most angry people were people I gave parking tickets to. It was kind of odd. You'd think if I arrested somebody and they had to go to jail, that would have been a more traumatic incident, but apparently it was not as traumatic as the citation. So they do a really good job for us as well, and they do take a lot of heat in that. Community service calls for service. This is a breakdown of what they do on for 2025. So parking and snow citations. So parking means illegal parking, and snow citations. So in the city of South Lake Tahoe, you cannot park on the street during snow operations because that slows the plows down. We can't get the roads cleared. One of their other tasks is going out and helping address those. So they will issue a citation for failure to clear the car off the road during snow operations. Sometimes that's not a citation. What's not represented here is going up to the door and knocking and going, hey, can you move this car? And if they're there and they'll move it, then okay, we're not going to cite you. The plow can continue on. City ordinance is kind of a generic term, and there's any variety of city ordinances. We were talking about that a minute ago, whether it's trash, nuisance, noise, unpermitted VHRs, lots of stuff in there. Abandoned vehicles, we definitely get a lot of those. I don't know why we get so many abandoned vehicles, but they seem to arrive in Tahoe. They went on vacation too, and they didn't leave. Not sure why. And then general nuisance calls. Before I go to the next page, any questions about the response stats for the CSOs? Okay. One of the things I'd love to highlight, Ashley, as you saw, had a very, very heavy load when all this started back up. So she teamed up with several members of the city, throughout the city. And in that process, they were so successful in creating that process, getting it streamlined, that they were nominated and actually won a city award known as the Sugar Pine Award for exceptional service. They really did a phenomenal job knocking it off. It says the team reviewed 1,246 applications in a short order, and they did a great job. That included people from our building department. We had, you saw those maps. Those were created by our GIS specialist, Ryan, with the city. So it was not just the police department. It was a collaborative effort with the police department, the city offices, and led to that being a lot less burden than it looked like it was going to be at the beginning. Not to downplay it, it still was a burden. Any questions on that? Okay. Last and certainly not least is our records unit. Our records unit fields so much of those counter calls. They come in, they want to talk to somebody, they need to report a crime, they want to file something, they need to pay a fine, they need to schedule an appointment for fingerprints. That's just the start of their job. They're also doing all the filing for all the reports that you see that everybody's mentioned, filing them in the appropriate places, getting them over to the DA's office for prosecution, sending things to the California DMV, for example, in a DUI case. There's a form that while we have a criminal report that goes to the DA, there's another report that has to go to the California DMV. They're handling that, and they're sending that there. I think I've got a couple, did we update the stats in this one? Yeah, there's the RIPA data, and we reported over 1,284 offenses to what's known as the California Incident-Based Reporting System. With that, Division of the California Department of Justice, and we had, what I'm very much more proud of them, they had a 0% error rate. It means everything they entered was correct. They got it over successfully. We have a lot of highly skilled, good people working in our records division. So with that concludes it was only 51 pages. I have to apologize. Any questions either on this page or the report in general?
No questions, but incredibly thorough. Thank you so much. And I, as an immigration attorney, I want to also commend you on the U visa applications because there are many police departments that are not responsive to those. So thank you for that.
You notice that on the records division one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My eyes will gravitate towards that. Any questions?
I think you guys are doing a great job. And 0% error rate for the amount, that's outstanding. It's great. I think all of you guys are doing a good job. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to open this one up to public comment. Trickling. Anything on Zoom?
No, Chair.
No. Before I move us to the last item, do we have a time cap on this meeting? This is the one that I was not sure that city staff, we had cap time on.
I don't recall specifically. We've never gone this late, so either way, it's only 6:23 though, so I'm not aware of a cap at 6. So I would say at least we could continue. We only have one item left, and
Just want to double check. And if we have one commission person who needs to leave, that's fine because we have quorum, correct?
that's correct.
Oh, you got
Yes, we have to do community support here and let a mother support her daughter. No, I just want to double check. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Go Vikings. Yeah. So that was also a receipt and file. Thank you, Lieutenant. I appreciate that. And then the last item is Sergeant Carl Quist for AB 481 annual report.
Right, I will be quick, I promise. Only an hour or two left. So Assembly Bill 481, first of all, it's nice to see you guys all again. I appreciate you guys having us here. Assembly Bill 481 deals specifically with equipment that the police department uses, and specifically equipment that the state of California has designated as military equipment. So that's what we're going to talk about here real quick. I've only got 10 slides, so it's going to be fast. This is a two-part program that the police department participates in. Everything that we have that falls under the category of military equipment directly aligns with two objectives. Either we're looking at public safety or we're looking at emergency preparedness. Everything we have that falls under this category is for those purposes. It aligns with, I think it's priority 3 of the city's strategic plan, which is, it's up there, ensuring public safety. That's not just on the police department side, that's on the fire department, on EMS, that whole triad of public safety. So everything we have comes through that lens. Assembly Bill 481 is the California equivalent of a national bill that allows the government to give military surplus equipment to police departments. That's the program that we're talking about here today. There are two definitions of military equipment, and it's very important to distinguish both. The federal definition is equipment used by the military that's given to law enforcement agencies. Equipment used by the military, so military equipment that's given to law enforcement agencies. California's definition is things that the public has perceived as military equipment or militarized equipment. So there's a lot of stuff that falls under that category for California that never came from the military, has nothing to do with the military. For example, a drone. If we buy a drone, didn't come from the military, it's not a drone the military uses, not a drone the military would ever use, but it's still considered military equipment under this Assembly Bill. So that's why those definitions are important to distinguish between. The military equipment policy comes along with annual inspections. I'm happy to report that we are 100% compliant with every single one of those inspections. Sometimes they're done by the military, sometimes they're done by California OES, the Office of Emergency Services. Sometimes there are our own in-house inspections that we do, but they are done a minimum of annually, and we're at 100% compliance with those since we've been in participation with this program, which has been since, I believe, 2013. If you're wondering what we have to generate reporting for transparency purposes on, this is the list in the government code that tells us what we have to report back. It's pretty obvious that it's, again, designed toward transparency, which is great because it generates conversations with the citizens and with the police department over why we have what we have and how we're using it. So this is the government code. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but basically, what do we have? How much of it do we have? What are we using it for? And has there been any complaints or anything like that from the public regarding that equipment? So that's what we have to report. We do publish a report annually, and Assembly Bill 481 has designated these things that I think you guys can see on your screen a little bit better, right? I tried to fit it all on one slide, so I apologize. These are all 14 of the items that the state of California has determined to be military equipment. Again, doesn't mean it came from the military uses it, it was made by the military, it's just what the state of California has determined to be military equipment. Of all these 14 things, the South Lake Tahoe Police Department only has 5 of those categories at our agency. And again, we publish a report, and that report is done annually, and it's posted on our website, and I'll provide the link to anybody who needs it. Just real quickly, number 1 are drones. Number 2, armored vehicles. The third one that we have, command and control vehicles. So think of the Caldor fire or something like that. If there's the snow globe event that used to be, or a large public gathering, the 4th of July, if we need to roll out a vehicle that can give us an opportunity to have command and control at the scene of something, that's the vehicle we're talking about. Then we're talking about chemical agents and 40 millimeter projectile launching platforms, and their munitions. Those last two are mostly SWAT team used things. If an officer goes out there and pulls out pepper spray and utilizes pepper spray, that doesn't fall under this category.
Before you move forward, that number 2 includes the new vehicle that was just
It does include the new vehicle. Yep. And that's a perfect example of something that right now our armored vehicle came from the military. Our new vehicle that we're buying to replace this one that's going out of date and is slowly breaking down on us, it has not come from the military. It's not anything the military would ever use. However, it's still considered military equipment. This is what the report looks like. Again, it takes all those items from the government code and it puts them into all 5 of those categories that apply to our specific agency. And then it's posted on our website at that link right there. Any questions?
That was incredibly efficient. I know that we talked a lot about the MRAP, so that has been one that has had a public conversation, and now the new truck has had a lot of public conversation. Are there any other things that you've heard public complaints about?
We have received 0 public complaints regarding any of these 5 categories that we have. It's important to know, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's important to note that the SWAT team goes out and does public outreach events multiple times per year. And part of the things that we do are we bring our equipment with us so that people can ask questions about why we look the way we look, why we have what we have. We've done SWAT presentations for the PAC in past years specifically to answer those questions. A lot of the reasons why we have what we have and the way we look and why we look the way we look is for de-escalation purposes. The number one de-escalation tool we have at the scene of a SWAT crisis is the MRAP. Because when it shows up, a lot of suspects go, oh, the SWAT team's here, I'm going to give up. That's our number one de-escalation tool, is the presence of the MRAP. A lot of citizens don't like it because they call it a tank. They believe that it's got a big turret and we're out there getting ready to do bad things to citizens. It's an armored vehicle. It's the same as our bulletproof vest that we wear. It's just we can put a lot more people inside of it. It's really hard for us to get to a dangerous scene and bring closure to it if we can't get there in the first place and we all get killed going there. So that is, you're absolutely right. That is the number one item on this list that we get discussion about.
No, I think you, outstanding. You did really good going through it. So, no, we're good.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
I was expecting more. Okay.
I'm positive.
All right. Thank you.
I guess I'll just add one more question. I think it's, well, I don't know that it's a question as much as just like a conversation point. Like with everything that's happening on the federal government level, I think it's flagging this is just important when they're using it. And I appreciate the outreach because it has become increasingly difficult to tell who are law enforcement who are taking these, like, this use of force statistics and all of this and the transparency. It's very hard when you're on the street as someone who is scared of the police generally to just even distinguish the thing. So just want to flag that. And I know you've done a similar presentation before and they continue to get better and you all continue to be more transparent, but I don't think I have a question, just wanting to flag it as like just a conversation point as it gets harder to distinguish who is who when you're on the ground.
It's hard for us too.
One of the things that, and you and I have talked about Cafecitos, one of the things that I emphasize with them is that for the most part, the police department is blue and the immigration enforcement guys are green. So that for us is pretty distinctive. Our SWAT team has gotten grief for actually being ICE a couple of times, and their uniforms are distinctly different than the guys that are running around doing that stuff.
One of the pictures in the annual report with the Marine unit of that Lieutenant Centel was showing with the SWAT team on a boat practicing rescuing injured citizens on a boat. While we were at that training in the marina, we had a boat come by and start throwing things at us, calling us ICE and telling us to get out of their city. Once we identified it, we're like, hey, we're local law enforcement. Their attitude changed a little bit. That happens. It's hard for us to determine who's who, so I completely empathize with that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Incredibly efficient. So I'll open it up to public comment for the record. Anyone on Zoom?
No one left on Zoom.
Okay. So then with that, I think we can move forward to staff reports. Start with you.
Your next meeting is May 6th at 4 p.m.
Mr. Barzell or Chief?
Nothing to report today.
Thanks for being patient. I like I told you, I wanted to jump off on this first meeting, especially with two new commissioners. I want you to beg for mercy for the amount of things that we cover, because I think that the PAC has been underutilized for the conversation that we can have out of some of the things that we do, particularly when we don't talk about a lot about what we do. And I think that you got a good flavor for the vastness of our responsibilities from Lieutenant Centel, and then a deep dive into a couple other things. I want to continue that deep dive throughout the year. I've got other things that I want to bring to the agenda for May already. So I don't know if you guys have thought about agenda items, but I know that with a few of you, I've had conversations about potential agenda items. But if we're going for 2 and 3 hour meetings, I've got enough to fill it. So I just want you to be, I want you to get a good toehold and hold on. As far as reporting out, I'm going to cover a few things, because I think that these are things where you guys can go back, have the conversations with some of the people you meet with, and kind of have that and carry our message for us. We talked a lot about the significance of the boat program. CalPERS is going to prevent us from using retired annuitants in that boat program, so we're working through some solutions to try and maintain our boat on the water. So that's one thing that's in the works right now. Lieutenant Centel mentioned our officers in training. Two of those officers, one of those officers received 2 awards at the police academy when he graduated in November. We're looking at sending 3 people to the academy in July, and I think we've got backgrounds going on 2 dispatchers right now. So it's a continuous process. We do like the process of, like we talked about before, the parking ambassadors moving to the CSOs, moving to the cop world. That is beneficial to us, and we have supervisors now that were CSOs back in the day. I think we talked about that in the October meeting. Since that October meeting, and I'm sure you guys have heard about the bear issues. So we had a bear summit in January. We're going to have another one in March, and we're trying to get everybody at the table to see where we can meet, see the things that we can have in common, see if we can come to common ground on how the bears get addressed here locally. So we're still working through that process. And I'm not sure, I think that I can't remember who I talked to about Citizen RIMS. Maybe that was you, Rebecca. Citizen RIMS has been up and running for about 8 months now. About 8 months. Almost a year. Okay, and so Citizen RIMS is it's on our website under Data and Transparency, and it's basically shows again the work we're doing, where we're doing it. You can pick kind of from a litany of different crime types or call types and see what's going on in different places in the city. That does include the VHR violations and the bear issues. We'll talk later this year about SB2 compliance, because that goes into some of the, like I said, the serious misconduct, but it goes into some of the use of force stuff and then the reporting. So again, that transparency, I want you guys to throw up on so much transparency. That's really what I want you to see coming out of this. I wanted to comment on our body-worn camera system. It's paying off in excess. Our ability to review circumstances of complaints and either found or unfound those complaints is the fastest it's been since I've been a cop. We're able to sit down with somebody, go through the body camera footage, and go, okay, this either happened or it didn't. So it costs a lot of money, but it saves a lot of money. And that's aside from even the prosecutorial side of it. Last year, I was talking to Valerie, a former commission member, and she and I were talking, and she suggested we have a spousal support program. And so I reached out to some people in the agency, and Ashley ended up being the spousal support coordinator, but she turned it into something much more than that. She turned it into SLTPD family. So we'll have some events, some in-reach. We often do outreach, but we're doing some in-reach. And that's part of, kind of the undertone of wellness that we try to maintain at the police department. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much. Now we have commissioner reports and announcements. I I do want to say that I was at the city council meeting in January, and I believe that was the same meeting that Mr. Messina and Ms. Sheff were appointed to. I was not there for this commission, but was brought up for questions about this commission. I want to share that there was conversation about what advising means for this commission. I was very transparent that one, it's a little bit difficult to sometimes, I really appreciate the transparency. I do want to throw up on transparency, please. But also in deciding what to advise on, I was very clear that from my perspective, I think when we advise the police to do something, should come from the citizens and not from our own ideas, though that doesn't necessarily mean I don't want our ideas if we have them. And I think, Chief, you've always been very receptive to that, as was Chief Stevenson. But there are questions about what we're advising the police to do. And one of the reasons we like the transparency is to see if there's anything for us to advise on. But I just wanted to share that and be really transparent that it was a question, even questions as to how often we have these meetings, as I mentioned earlier. So I do think we are a little bit on council's radar. I think as a transparency group, we do hold a lot of responsibility in that and what that looks like, which is why I encourage all of you to continue to ask questions, have meetings with the chief, and also, as I said at that council meeting, for the public to continue to email us if they have questions that they don't feel comfortable bringing to the police, because I still think there are a lot of marginalized population who, despite how transparent our police are, have their own experiences and their own things that inform them. So they should always feel free to be comfortable to come to us with those complaints, and for us to figure out how to, at the glee with the Brown Act, put those on the agenda for transparency and how we deal with those. Because we can't deal with individual complaints, but perhaps we can talk about the larger issues that might surround them. So I wanted to report back that that is what council had said in the mid-January meeting, I want to say it was. Yeah, something like that. So if you want to go back and see that conversation, that's there. I'm really excited to have welcome Mr. Messina and Ms. Sheff onto the commission, and have your engagement, have different voices here. So I will start there.
Chair Gonzalez, can I add something? I think a lot of the advising is like the informal communication like you and I have had. And I think what I may do is just add some of those topics to the annual report, so that the council understands that it's not just necessarily you guys reporting back to council and council telling us, hey, change this, do that, or whatever, but it's the informal conversations that we have that kind of guide some of the ideas and directions that we're going.
I agree, and I just want to put it on your radar as commissioners, so you all know what the conversation is about and just be aware of it. Again, I really hope the citizens, if they do have a problem, they are willing to bring it forward to us so we can address it in that sort of, if we need to. It's here for accountability. I think the police department has been accountable to the questions we have. So, and as we see the thoroughness in the reports today, just wanting to hold that. Other than that, this is the time where we can request that an item be placed on a future agenda. Does anyone have any? Go for it, Mr. Messina.
Okay. I'm in reference to the same meeting, and actually several meetings. The city council has actually asked us to look at issues, and I was going to volunteer. I would like to put on the next agenda a discussion about clear zones, because I'm interested in public safety and possible changes to our city code to improve those. Is that how I would phrase it to do that?
Dan?
Can you provide some more context of what you're referring to?
Well, one, I think I would like to see us discuss the issue, and I think I would like to suggest some small changes to the city codes regarding the clear zones laws, so that we could make a recommendation to the city council to change the laws. Is that the way it would work?
Well, it may be outside the scope of what this commission is empowered to do.
They asked us to advise the police department, and I think this falls under that category.
Chief, are you?
Mr. Messina, what's a clear zone?
A clear zone is the 20, there's actually two different laws now. One is 20 and 25 feet, non-obstructed view at intersection corners.
Oh, you're talking about the daylight laws?
Yes, daylight,
Okay.
that's one of them, is, yeah, the daylight laws. I've noticed some problems with them, and I wanted to present it, make a presentation and get some feedback, basically.
Well, I would suggest if you'd like, we could, if you get a second, agendize an item for a discussion of
Yeah,
clear zones.
that's it, yeah.
And then we could consider at the commissioner report section whether we want to set a further item to consider advice and what that could look like and within the scope of what you're empowered to do.
Okay.
Still need a second for that. He's asking for it, but if no one else wants to hear it, then it doesn't move forward.
I think what's complicated is before we take a presentation is to know what the scope of what we can advise on. Is it possible, would you be okay if we held this discussion to the next meeting to put it on the August agenda so that Mr. Bardzell can research for us a little bit about what the scope of our advisement is?
I guess so. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to get us working in that direction, and this seemed like a good place to start.
I think the only issue, and Dan, Mr. Bardzell and I had a conversation about this because I wanted to also understand what the scope of our actual
Yes.
legality is, and I think that's also part of the my personal frustration in the discussion of what advisement means, because we're tasked with a very specific thing, very different than the other commissions and a lot more narrow. So that's a little bit of so I think I'd be open to hearing a presentation on that, but I don't want to hear the presentation and then not do the thing you want if we can't do the thing you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I imagine this could go directly to the city council. It's just, they've been saying, well, we should give them advice on things, be proactive. So I'm just trying to comply with that.
Yeah, so I don't have the resolution in front of me, but there's a list of, I believe, 5 items that this commission is actually empowered to engage with. So I can certainly bring that to the next meeting and we could go through it. I do like to communicate with new commissioners. That was one of the items that I had hoped to discuss with you, but between this meeting and the next, we can also have that conversation with our orientation meeting.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying. The concern is when we say we want to change law, there's a lot of implications that goes into it, as they would know, and also the chief. So I think let's table it, see what we can do and we cannot do on recommendations. I know I wasn't here at the board meeting, but I went through and listened to the whole board meeting that was recorded. What they're asking from us is some type of report documentation, what we're discussing, the engagements that we have. Making a recommendation of law changes outside of city policy can be something different that we might not be able to do.
Okay, so actually, the chief had a summary of those items, so I can read those now. Review and discuss police department policy. Receive, review, and discuss annual police employee personnel complaint statistics. Receive, review, and discuss various transparency-related reports. That would include RIPA data, use of force. Advise and assist the police department on recruitment strategies. Collaborate on community outreach strategies and local cultural competency training. And open forum to discuss other police community issues. So, so I would say that having an open forum discussion I think is fair game for that topic. In terms of what recommendations we could make to council, if the commission wanted, that may be outside the scope. However, there's always the commissioner reports, so you could choose to agree on a report out to council to discuss issues you're interested in. So that may be another option as well. We could walk through that if that becomes something that you're interested in.
Okay.
I mean, do you want to propose it again, or do you still want it?
I think I'll discuss it and pursue it. I didn't know if this was the proper place to bring it up or not, but I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
You know, if
In theory, you're correct. This is the time to bring it up. So kudos there. I think the one discussion, and have we done this recently, Chief? I know you've been doing the cafecitos on the distinction between immigration and local. Can't remember if we did it last year. Do we? Is that potentially a discussion worth having again?
Let me look at my schedule and see when the last time we did SB 54 was. Oh, clearly it's been a while. I want to say we did it early last year. It's not, my own thing only goes to the 24. I think we did it early last year, but if you want to talk about it, let me look at my topics real quick and see if I have that.
I'm sorry, what topic was that?
Just on the distinction between immigration and enforcement and local law enforcement. We did. It was within that year, sir? Okay, so then if it's been within the year, then I don't think.
Was that August?
Mr. Manfredi says we did. I'll trust his memory more than my own. So with that, I don't have any. I'm going to trust your list since you did it and start there. And then if next time I have an idea, I'll throw it out there. Mr. Manfredi.
We could see if we could add it in for next year, but we did have it. I do remember explicitly we did talk about it and engaged on it. It's all over the California policy too, that I just read today through some certain papers. So we could put on agenda for next year if you want.
Copy that.
Yeah. Keep it on the rotating list for now. So I don't think we need to move to have it as an item. Ms. Sheff?
Just to add to that conversation, there's also been 5 new bills that have been introduced that will probably be part of that conversation that are within that realm that won't pass till, the end of this year. So just a heads up, including another one from Senator Perez, who authored SB 54.
Great. Any other ideas for agenda topics then?
Do you want me to cover what I have on the list?
I think I'm going to trust it.
Okay.
And then moving forward, understanding that Chief is having us here for longer meetings. So please budget that into your schedule moving forward.
Bring snacks.
Bring snacks. And then Dan, I might ask you later for when are strategic times to take breaks for bio breaks.
Yeah, we can talk through that after the meeting.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. With that, I'll adjourn this meeting. I'm not going to hit the hammer though. Okay. Meeting adjourned.